Meet Seo Takuya, a guy whose heart rate is currently breaking land speed records just because he's sitting in class. He's holding a treasure that shouldn't exist in a high school hallway, a limited edition Kiramon eraser exclusively for supporters. Most people see a toy for little girls, but to Seo, this is a sacred masterpiece of late-night 34 o'clock anime history. Then, the girl sitting at the very top of the school's hierarchy arrives. Ijichi leans in way too close, perfume and confidence practically knocking Seo out of his seat. Before he can even breathe, his holy relic is pinched between her fingers. "I can borrow this eraser?" "Yeah," he's short-circuiting. Typical otakus aren't just weak against gyurus, they're biologically incapable of handling them. Beside the bubbly Ijichi stands Amane Kei, the school's top beauty, distant enough to have her own weather system. But when Ijichi calls his precious Kiramon a Pikachu, Seo's survival instinct is overridden by his need to be right. He starts huffing and puffing, ready to lecture the popular girls on episode 4 character debuts. Then, the impossible happens. The Ice Queen's composure cracks for a microsecond. Because it actually shows up for the first time in episode 2, Seo freezes. That wasn't a guess. That was a cited source. She tries to pivot back to her little sister excuse, but the damage is done. Seo's brain is screaming, could Amane actually be one of us? He can't let it go. The question is burning a hole in his head. Whether Amane Kei, who sits atop the class caste ranking, is actually an otaku or not. He gathers every ounce of courage he possesses, which is about a teaspoon's worth, and approaches her. Excuse me, Amane-sa?" She shuts him down with a defensive wall of noise, swearing it's her sister who loves the show. But as she turns to walk away, Seo's eyes lock onto her bag. Nestled there, hidden in plain sight, is a limited edition Kiramon key holder. He isn't guessing anymore. He's found his kindred spirit. Seo dangles the bait, casually mentioning the rarity of her accessory. Amane's professional mask doesn't just slip, it disintegrates. This is Ijichi from the comic's first volume Early Bird Special. She's geeking out so hard she's glowing, and Seo is just watching her eat it up. When he offers to let her have his spare, the trap is fully sprung. For one brief, shining moment, the school idol disappears. Her eyes sparkle with a light that only a true collector knows. "You mean it's okay?" She's beaming. Even when she catches herself and throws the sister shield back up, Seo doesn't care. Seeing her that happy over a pink keychain? That's the real victory. Enter Ijichi again, and she's brought the energy back up to a 10. She's actually curious about the show, poking at a plushie that apparently has popping eyeballs when you squeeze it. Seo is stunned. A popular girl isn't just acknowledging his hobby, she's asking for the lore. This is it. The question every otaku prays for. What kind of story is it anyway? To Seo, this isn't just a conversation starter. It's a perfect volleyball set. A godly pass delivered with total innocence. He's practically vibrating with the urge to unload 12 seasons of backstory on her. But while Seo is in heaven, Amane is in purgatory. She's blushing, sweating, and barely holding on. Every fiber of her being wants to jump in and answer the questions herself. But her reputation is a cage. She's watching someone explain her favorite thing badly, and it's clearly killing her. Amane finally breaks. She grabs Ijichi, her voice desperate as she offers to bring the comics tomorrow just to stop the misinformation. And then, like a reflex, the cover story returns. "Fall for it like my little sister has, too." Seo just watches from his desk, realizing that little sister is the busiest fan in Japan. Next day, the Ijichi UFO strikes again. She's back in Seo's personal space, vacuuming up his erasers and leaning in so far he can count her eyelashes. He's trying to stay cool, but the proximity is a weapon. Typical otakus are weak against gyurus, and Seo is currently defenseless. Ijichi mentions she actually started the manga. That's all the permission Seo needs. He explodes into a passionate lecture on the nuances of the adaptation, his gaze practically sparkling with excitement. Yes, the comics version. He's finally speaking his true language, and for once, someone is actually listening. The high fades and the panic sets in. Seo is sure he's been creepy, but Ijichi just rests her chin on her hand, smiling. "Otaku-kun, you kinda look like Rokeman." He's stunned. She's comparing him to the reliable, supportive hero who cheers everyone on. It's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to his face. Then she doubles down. She leans in, hand almost touching his face, focusing on him with zero hesitation. "Like your cute, round eyes, it's too much." Seo's internal engine just threw a rod. He's a blushing, stuttering mess while Amane watches from the background, wondering if she missed a chapter. Seo regains his focus. He's watching Amane talk with her friends about her budget. They suggest cosmetics, but she slips again. On killer accessories, of course. She almost said Kiramon. Seo is basically a detective at this point, and every clue is pointing to one glorious, nerdy truth. There it is, hanging from her bag. A limited edition collaboration between Kiramon and a high-end jeweler. It's the holy grail of merch. Seo's jaw is on the floor, but Amane is a stone wall. She doesn't even look back. Just a cold final. I'm not. The lady doth protest too much. She tries the sister excuse one more time, her back turned to hide the blush. Seo decides to stop dancing around it. He looks her in the eye and asks the one thing an otaku can't lie about. That you hated Amane-san? Kiramon, I mean, the world stops. Amane looks down, her face soft, her voice a whisper that cuts through the classroom noise. I love it, it's beautiful, until Ijichi teleports behind them with a grin. So, you guys going out now? The romantic tension doesn't just break, it's obliterated. The chaos of the dating rumor dies down, leaving them in a strange new peace. Amane hands over the bag, letting Seo admire the craftsmanship of the rare charm. They're still miles apart on the social ladder, but over this one piece of plastic and metal, they're finally on the same page. Ijichi Kotoko doesn't just enter a room, she invades it. She's leaning so close I can smell her shampoo, shoving her phone into my personal space like it's a weapon. Hey, Otaku-kun, are you on Instagram? My heart hits my ribs like a trapped bird. If she finds my account, the social execution begins. I try to play it cool, stammering about my private settings, but my hands are shaking too much to hide the truth. It's not anything I want to show other people. The sound of her thumb swiping across the glass is the rhythm of my impending doom. She's in. She's seeing the Kiramon shrines, the detailed character studies, the soul of a nerd laid bare. I'm waiting for the laughter, the ridicule, the creepy label that sticks forever. Then she lets out a sharp breath. Wow, lol, these are all Kiramon. The word cryptic hangs in the air like a guillotine blade, and I'm just waiting for it to drop. But the guillotine never falls. Instead, her eyes are sparkling, wider than I've ever seen them. Wow, this is like for reals, badass. She's pointing at my sketches with genuine heat, calling me a pro. I'm standing in the middle of the classroom, braced for a hit, and instead, I'm being handed a trophy. I can't even process it. You don't think it's creepy? I whisper, but she's already moving past the fear, looking at me like I'm something more than the class weirdo. Before I can blink, she's hooked an arm around me, dragging me into the frame of a selfie. The flash is blinding, a white burst that seals this impossible moment into digital stone. She grins, her face right next to mine, showing off the post. First dual selfie. Don't delete it, okay, she's marking her territory in my world, and for the first time in my life, a popular girl's attention doesn't feel like a prank. It feels like I just obtained a treasure. Then, the world turns gray. This week's episode of Kiramon didn't just end, it shattered us. Patchy, the rival, the jerk we all love to hate, went out in a blaze of noble glory protecting Sachiko. I cried until I fell asleep, my face stuck to the pillow. I'm walking to school through a fog of grief, desperate for anyone who understands the weight of a fictional sacrifice. I find myself looking toward Amane-san's seat, wondering if she felt the same crack in her heart. There she is. The school's top beauty, staring out the window with eyes that look suspiciously red. Then comes the sound, a sigh so deep it carries the weight of 1,000 lost episodes. I know that look. That's the patchy hangover. The tracks of her tears aren't from a drama or a breakup. They're for a magical girl's rival. We're miles apart in the classroom, but in this moment of pure otaku mourning, we're breathing the exact same air. The guys are whispering that she looks beautiful in her sadness, probably imagining some tragic romance. But when Ijichi asks if she's okay, Amane pulls the mask back on. I got into a fight with my little sister. It's the same old shield, a convenient excuse to hide the nerd beneath the vest. I watch her, feeling a strange mix of pity and kinship. She's lying to the whole world while I'm the only one who knows she's actually grieving a cartoon. She's an otaku. There is no doubt left. The way she reacted to the name Pachi was a dead giveaway, even if she tried to bury it under talk of gaming bugs. I'm starting to see through the cracks of the social hierarchy, and it's terrifyingly exhilarating. Amane Kei isn't just a beauty, she's one of us. The next morning, the brain rot continues. I'm staring at Michi, the spirited Kiramon idol, and the realization hits me like a freight train. The hair, the energy, the constant "I'll be by your side" vibe, she's the spitting image of Ijichi-san. I can't unsee it. Every time Ijichi walks into the room with that "good mornin'," I'm not seeing a classmate, I'm seeing a legendary Kiramon master. I spend the whole day sneaking peeks, my brain short-circuiting. How am I supposed to talk to her when she looks like a literal 2D idol come to life? She's the center of the universe, surrounded by the popular cliques and Starbucks cups, while I'm hiding behind a textbook. I'm staring so hard my eyes are going to fall out, and I don't even realize she's noticed until the air in the room suddenly shifts. I noticed you were looking at me all day long. Ijichi is leaning over my desk, her chin in her hand, that sharp grin back in place. I'm stammering out apologies, swearing I'm not a creep, but the words just tumble out. I tell her she looks like Michi, how spirited she is, how she cheers everyone up. I'm basically confessing my deepest nerd observations to the school's most popular girl, and I'm ready to dissolve into the floor tiles. She doesn't laugh. Instead, she holds up her phone, mimics Mickey's signature pose, and delivers the line, "I'ma be by your side, Kay." The world stops. It's perfect. It's too much. My heart is doing backflips in my chest, and even Amane looks on with a flat "never do that again" while I'm internally screaming. It's a total mismatch, but God, it's so cute. Later, I watch the guys swarm them, talking about karaoke and modeling scouts. Amane has that sadistic queen vibe, and Ijichi is the bright idol. They live in a world of chatter and kyas, a place where I'm just background noise. It's a reminder that even if we share a few secrets, the social ladder is still 10 miles high. But I have something they don't. Today is the release of the rare Kiramon random figures, and I have one goal: obtain the secret item. I slip away to animate, my heart racing with the thrill of the hunt. The shop isn't crowded, which is a relief, even if it means the show isn't exactly a blockbuster. I'm in my element now, the Otaku-kun on a mission. I round the corner and freeze. Standing by the figures are the two people I least expected to see outside of school: Amane and Ijichi. Amane looks like she's just been caught committing a crime, her face going beet red as she fumbles for the little sister excuse again. It's my little sister. Yup, it's because my sister is so looking forward to it, so she's practically vibrating with embarrassment. Ijichi just giggles, blowing a bubble with her lollipop. Apparently the karaoke thing was a bust. Too many clingy guys, so she just followed Amane here to see what she was up to. I'm standing there with a lump in my throat, realizing that if we combine our chances, we might actually get the rare figures we want. My brain is screaming, "Ask her," but my lungs have forgotten how to work. I start to turn away. I tell myself we inhabit different worlds, that Otaku and Gyaru simply don't belong together at a hobby shop checkout. I'll just come back later when they're gone. But then, a hand grabs my bag, a sharp pull that stops me dead in my tracks. I look back and see them both looking straight at me. No mockery, no judgment, just two girls who want the same piece of plastic I do. "Hey, Otaku-kun," Ijichi starts, her grin wider than ever. The social wall doesn't just crumble, it's stepped over. "You came here for the figure, right? Let's buy one together." They're dragging me toward the counter. Amane still muttering about Vamp the Great for her sister, while her face burns. I'm being pulled along by the most popular girls in school, red-faced and stuttering, but the weight in my chest is finally gone. There might in fact be Gyaru who are kind to an otaku. And then the luck of the gods strikes. Ijichi cracks her box open and pulls out the secret figure like it's nothing. Amane is staring at it with an expression that can only be described as soul-crushed envy, whispering Vamp-sama under her breath. It's chaotic, it's stupid, and for the first time, it feels like I actually belong. In the social ecosystem of this school, I'm the plankton, a Kiramon-loving otaku hiding behind a textbook, while the apex predators occupy the seats right in front of me. Ijichi is currently buzzing like a live wire, leaning across the desk to deliver the kind of news that stops the heart of every guy in the room. She leans in close, grin wide and lethal, and drops the bombshell. "Anyway, Amane, I heard the captain of the basketball team confess to you." Amane doesn't even blink. Her profile is sharp and untouchable as an ice sculpture. "I turned him down," she says, as if she's reporting a minor weather update rather than crushing a jock's soul. I try to tune them out, convinced her world and mine don't even share the same gravity, until she starts describing her ideal man. Very slim, very pale, looks good in black. Wait a second. The realization hits me like a freight train. She's not describing a boyfriend, she's listing the character specs for Vamp the Great. She adds the final, damning detail with a faint blush, someone who'd be weak against sunlight. She's talking about a fictional vampire from a girl's anime while her friend thinks she's talking about K-pop stars. Suddenly, the Ice Queen is standing over me, her hands on my collar and her aura radiating pure, unadulterated threat. The school's top beauty leans down, her voice dropping to a terrifyingly intimate level that only I can hear. She pins me with a look that says my life ends here if I speak. So that must mean that you don't like Vamp, right? Another day, another social disaster waiting to happen. Ijichi has apparently decided that my desk is her personal supply closet, casually demanding my ruler while the rest of the guys stare in envious confusion. But the comedy routine hits a wall when I realize I forgot my English textbook, and Mafia Sensei just walked through the door. If he catches me without it, I'm dead meat. I'm trying to blend into the floorboards, but Ijichi has the situational awareness of a heat-seeking missile. She watches me fumble with a math book to hide my shame, her eyes lighting up with a mischievous glow that spells absolute doom for my reputation. She doesn't just see the mistake, she broadcasts it to the entire classroom. She found out. She shoots her hand up before I can even process the panic, her voice ringing out across the quiet room. Other guys are practically begging for her to sit with them, but she shuts them down with a casual wave of her hand. She looks the scary teacher right in the eye, pointing a finger directly at the shaking otaku in the corner. I'll ask Seo-kun to share his with me. I'm certain she's just setting me up for a prank, but when she leans in, the mockery isn't there. She actually has her own textbook. She's just using this as an excuse to sit by me. She leans close, her perfume mixing with the scent of old paper, and whispers the truth directly into my ear. Consider it a thanks? Yeah? Sunday morning at the Ox Mall, and I'm in my element, ready to watch the Kiramon Hero show with the other true believers. It's supposed to be my safe space, but then I spot a girl sitting on the front row in a mask and hat, trying desperately to be invisible. She's vibrating with an energy I recognize all too well. It's her. The beauty of the school is at a toddler's mascot show. Amane tries the fake voice for about 3 seconds before realizing the gig is up. She stops hiding and immediately gets down to business, her eyes narrowing as she sizes up my potential as a trading partner. She's not the Ice Queen right now, she's a collector on a mission. If you get Vamp, that's mine, all right. She's still clinging to the my little sister has a cold excuse, but her blushing cheeks tell a completely different story. The music blares, the crowd roars, and Tonanama makes his grand entrance on stage. I'm impressed by her commitment to keeping her cool, right up until the announcer mentions a special guest. The atmosphere changes instantly. The cool and distant Amane Kei officially leaves the building the moment the villain steps into the spotlight. Her favorite character isn't just on screen anymore, he's right there in the flesh. She lets out a scream that probably shattered windows 3 towns over, her fists clenched and her face bright red. It's Vamp the Great. School days are supposed to be my time to recover, but Ijichi has other plans. I'm just trying to buy a cola in peace when a whirlwind of blonde curls and energy slams into my personal space. She stands there with her hands on her hips, looking like she's about to make an arrest for the crime of being too boring. Hey Otaku-kun, just what do you think you're doing right now? Before I can even get my change, she's dragging me toward a discount store with the focused intensity of a bargain-hunting housewife. I'm stumbling after her, my brain trying to process why the most popular girl in my year is currently holding my hand and talking about half-price sales. Alrighty then, let's go. The next hour is a blur of leopard print shirts and dizzying prices that I somehow ended up paying for. I'm standing there with 2 sodas, wondering how I became her personal pack mule, when her phone rings. She answers it with a casual wave, mentioning she's heading to karaoke with friends. I realize I wasn't the main event. I was just the warm-up. We got 2 colas for 150 yen, right? I'm ready to slink back into the shadows, convinced this was just a random whim, but then she turns back with a wink that makes my pulse flatline. She holds up her soda like it's a trophy, and drops a line that completely rewrites the last 60 minutes of my life. Let's have another date, okay? My heart isn't just beating, it's exploding. This whole time, she actually saw it as the real deal. Back in the safety of the classroom, We've formed a secret little club where the only currency is Kiramon trivia. I'm floating on cloud 9, finally able to share the things I love without being mocked. I mention I have extra copies of the Blu-rays, one for watching, one for the collection, and offer to let them borrow them. It feels like I'm finally being seen. Ijichi, being the absolute social bulldozer she is, takes my offer and runs it straight into a wall. She doesn't just want the discs, she wants the full otaku experience. My brain is screaming system error as she decides our afternoon plans for us. On the way home today, let's all stop by at Otaku-kun's house. I'm desperately trying to come up with excuses about messy rooms or judgmental parents, but Amane isn't listening. The mention of my fan drawings has flipped her collector switch, and her cool facade is melting into pure, unbridled curiosity. She crowds into my personal space, her eyes gleaming with a terrifying intensity. Anyway, can you draw, vamp? And just like that, the impossible has happened. I am standing in the center of my bedroom while the two most popular girls in school make themselves comfortable on my floor. Amane is already looking for my sketchbooks, and my heart is hammering against my ribs so hard I'm surprised they can't hear it. What the hell am I supposed to do next? Ijichi leans against the doorframe, a playful glint in her eyes as she notices my absolute meltdown. She knows exactly how much power she has in this moment, and she's enjoying every second of it. She whispers with a teasing grin that makes my knees weak. "Are you okay, Otaku-kun?" My private sanctuary is officially under siege. The air in here is usually heavy with the scent of old sketchbooks and plastic figurines, but now it's all expensive perfume and schoolgirl energy. Amane is treating my limited edition Earth-sama like a holy relic, while Ijichi is practically crawling on the floor looking for my graduation album. I'm standing here with my heart hammering a rhythm I didn't know it could play. Am I going to be able to return home alive at this point? Ijichi doesn't just walk in, she occupies space. She's leaning into me, soft and warm, her shoulder pressing right against mine as we look at the discs. My brain is short-circuiting so hard I can't even see the labels. Amane watches from the side like a judge at a trial, her voice cutting through the heat. "Ijichi, that's called sexual harassment." I'm bowing, I'm sweating, and I'm definitely not recommending we watch this together. If I get into the zone, I start shouting like a maniac. But Amane's already looking at the glow sticks. She's not just watching, she's ready to perform. The excuses are flying, little sisters. Curiosity, whatever keeps the social masks on, but Amane's eyes give her away. She's talking about cutting out the lights and going full immersion. Ijichi thinks it sounds like a boy band concert, but Amane is on a different level. This is the top beauty of the school admitting to the grind. She's for real, we're about to start, and she's already nodding like a general entering battle. I'm starting to think I'm not the most intense person in this room. Lights out. The room is pitch black except for the glow of the screen and the neon hum of our glow sticks. I'm kneeling between them, actual popular girls, and the silence is heavy with the smell of them. Every time one of them shifts, I feel the air move. My heart is doing a drum solo against my ribs. This is amazing, I'm getting so excited. I didn't realize until it was too late that I've invited two landmines into my bed-adjacent space. On screen, Kiramon is laying down the law. It's the peak of the arc, the first human friend, the tears, the high-stakes combat. Amane is practically vibrating beside me, her breath hitching at the emotional beats. Ijichi is just losing it, laughing at the live-action commentary and the snake monster on screen. It's absolute chaos. My room is no longer a sanctuary, it's a front-row seat to the most absurd watch party in history. I've never done this before. Sharing the hype, feeling the same surge of adrenaline when a hidden character appears. This is fun, but before I can bask in the feeling, Amane loses it. She's not just watching anymore, she's reaching out. Her hand fists into the fabric of my shirt, her eyes wide and fixed on the screen as the secret appearance happens. She's not the Ice Queen right now. She's just a fan who can't handle the hype. She's touching me, actually touching me. In the dark, the distance between us has completely evaporated. Amane is always so aloof at school, keeping everyone at arm's length. But here? She's close enough that I can smell her hair. I can't hear a word of the TV anymore. My thoughts have devolved into a loop of "she smells go good," and I'm boned. This is way too much for a guy who usually talks to posters. The intimate atmosphere is shattered by a blinding white flash. Ijichi is hovering over us with her phone out like a paparazzo catching a scandal. Amane snaps back to herself, her face going from fangirl to lethal in half a second. Sorry, I got too close, right? I'm just trying to survive the whiplash while Ijichi laughs about her super rare photo. I'm too weak to even ask for a copy. Lights on. Ijichi is stretching out on my bed like she owns the place, and I'm staring at the ceiling wondering if I'll ever be able to sleep on these sheets again without vibrating. She's threatening to upload that photo to Instagram, then pivots the target to me. She remembers Amane wanted to see my secret account. The air in the room suddenly gets very, very thin. Amane leans in, her face glowing with a terrifying intensity. She wants to see the drawings. I'm trying to play it down, it's just a hobby, nothing special, but she's not hearing it. To her, every piece of art for this show is precious. What are you even saying? Of course it's special. I'm handing over my phone like a man surrendering his soul. I just hope I didn't post anything too weird today. She's scrolling. Silence falls over the room, the kind that feels like it's pressing on your eardrums. Amane stops. Her eyes widen, her breath catches, and she looks at me like she's seeing a ghost. Could it be your account name is Otaku Ocean? My heart stops. That's a name from the depths of the fandom. How the hell does the school's top beauty know my secret handle? She doesn't just know it, she lives for it. Amane looks up from the screen, her composure returning but with a new, deep respect in her eyes. Because I happen to be one of those 50, she's been following me for months. To her, my drawings are god tier. I'm sitting here, a mess in a high-collared uniform, and the most popular girl in school just called me a legend. I think I might actually be dreaming. Before I know it, we're huddled over my tablet. Amane is so close I can feel the heat radiating off her. She's completely forgotten about her little sister excuse. Her otakudom is on full display as she begs for a lesson. So close, I'm so absorbed in teaching her the lines that I completely tune out the rest of the world. Then I catch Ijichi's eye. I've been ignoring her for 20 minutes. I look over and, oh God, Ijichi is sprawled across my bed, her shirt slightly open, looking way more relaxed than any girl should be in a nerd's bedroom. Somehow, she's super erotic. My mental gears are grinding to a total halt. I'm a terrible host. I'm apologizing. I'm stammering, and I'm definitely trying not to look at the way she's smiling at me. She doesn't seem to mind being ignored at all. Ijichi starts talking about their lives at school. The guys constantly trying to pick them up. The pressure of being popular. They inhabit a world of lights and attention, miles away from my corner of the universe. We inhabit totally different worlds. Looking at them here, on my floor, in my messy room, the reality of the situation finally sinks in. These aren't just classmates. They're practically celebrities, and they're here with me. Ijichi leans in, her eyes twinkling with pure mischief. She drops the question that would kill any other guy. Which one of us strikes your fancy? I can feel my brain melting. The pressure is lethal. I grab the first thing within reach, a Kiramon DVD. I'm devoted to Sachiko only. The girls burst out laughing. It's the most me answer possible, and for the first time I don't feel like I failed. The clock on my shelf is a cruel reminder that time doesn't stop, even for miracles. It's late, the sun is setting, and the magic hour is over. They're at the gate, bags over their shoulders, the normal world waiting for them outside my front door. Laters, Otaku-kun. They start to walk away, and I feel a sudden, desperate urge to say something that matters. I shout it out before I can lose my nerve. I want to thank you too. They stop, turning back with surprised expressions. I'm blushing, my hands are shaking, but I keep going. It's the first time I had friends. I had anyone over. The formal schoolboy act is gone. I'm just a kid who had the best day of his life, and I need them to know it. The silence that follows is different, softer. Amane looks away, her hand reaching up to touch her neck, a faint pink dusting her cheeks. She thanks me for letting her geek out. So I should say to you too, thanks. The top beauty of the school, the girl who ignores everyone, just gave me a smile that's worth 1,000 limited edition figurines. I watch them walk away into the sunset, my hands still raised in a wave. The walk home is quiet, the evening air cooling their faces. Ijichi is the first to speak, noting how earnest and polite I was. So earnest and polite, it's kinda intriguing. Amane just stares ahead, thinking about how long it's been since she felt that at ease. He might be, not too bad. The secret circle has officially closed, and I think my life at school is about to get a lot more complicated. But before the credits roll, there's one more obstacle. My mom. She catches us at the door, her eyes widening as she sees two actual living girls leaving her son's room. Ara kiwa e. She's already planning the wedding in her head. I'm just standing there, wishing the ground would swallow me whole while the girls laugh their way home. My sanctuary is gone, but honestly, I wouldn't trade today for anything. The girls are gone, and the silence that fills the void is deafening. Seo stands in the center of his sanctuary, but the air has changed. He looks around at the space that used to be his fortress, realizing that his four walls have never felt so desolate. It's the classic post-social event calm down, made worse by the fact that he doesn't even have a way to text the girl who just called herself his friend. Then he smells it. A faint, cloying fragrance that refuses to leave with its owners. It's not just a scent, it's a presence. Suddenly, the walls are closing in, and his imagination is running wild with the shameless fantasies of them still being right there, leaning in, touching his shoulders, turning his bedroom into a minefield of teenage hormones. He tries to draw it away, to purge the thoughts onto the tablet, but the phantom Amane is right there, whispering, "Draw me the vamp, Otaku-kun." He flees to his bed, the last line of defense, only for an imaginary Ijichi to sprawl out next to him, teasing that his bed is so totes comfy. There is no escape. Seo is a prisoner of his own imagination, and the night is going to be very, very long. Morning arrives with all the mercy of a car crash. Seo drags himself to school with bags under his eyes deep enough to store his manga collection. The girls look perfectly fine, of course, radiating that good morning energy while Seo realizes the true terror of sleep, or the lack of it. He's running on fumes and sheer social anxiety. With Ijichi away, Seo sees his opening. He corners Amane, his voice dropping to a whisper as he plays his trump card. He knows she has an anonymous account. He knows she uses it to follow him. Amane's cool beauty mask doesn't just slip, it cracks right down the middle as she realizes he's found the likes she's been hiding. Seo goes full detective, pointing a finger like he's in a courtroom drama. He delivers the blow. The Anon account in question is in fact your personal account. It's the indubitable evidence of their shared otakudom. Amane wobbles, her perfect composure dissolving into a panicked, vibrating mess as she realizes she's been caught red-handed. She tries to wiggle out of it with the "it's for my little sister" excuse, a classic in the closet otaku playbook. But Seo isn't buying the act. He sees the fire in her eyes when she mentions keeping up a real-time commentary on Kiramon. He thought he found a comrade, but he's starting to realize Amane might be even more hardcore than he is. She finally breaks, whispering her secret handle, Teigoku Shoujo. It's more than a name. It's a confession. As they walk together, the distance between the most popular girl in school and the socially isolated nerd vanishes. Seo watches her profile, stunned by the realization that she's more serious about their hobby than he ever imagined. She's not just a fan, she's a devotee. 10 p.m. The Kiramon broadcast begins. Usually this is Seo's solitary ritual, but tonight his phone is glowing with the promise of a text. He's more nervous about the live texting session than the actual episode. Across town, Amane is already locked in, phone gripped tight, the cool girl from school replaced by a wide-eyed fan. Her texts are a revelation. "Ah, Vamp-sama," she types, completely uninhibited. The girl who barely speaks at school is currently hyperventilating over animation directors in his DMs. Seo's otaku pride flares up. He can't let her outgeek him. He prepares for battle, determined to show her the true depth of his love for all things Kiramon. The next day, Amane arrives at school literally glowing. It's the post-episode satisfaction of a fan who's seen a masterpiece. Seo watches her from the sidelines, struggling to reconcile this radiant, satisfied girl with the person who spent all night arguing about character designs with him. He feels a weird mix of guilt and camaraderie. She catches his eye and drops the hammer. "It was amazing yesterday." The classroom air thickens. To anyone else, it sounds like a confession of something far more scandalous than an anime marathon. Seo freezes, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to pivot the conversation back to the weather before the rumors start flying. The vibe is suddenly, terrifyingly erotic. But duty calls. Seo heads to the supermarket kids section on a desperate quest for a rare Kiramon pillow cover. He finds it, the holy grail of merchandise. Yeesh, it's here. His celebration is cut short by a tired mother nearby, a reminder of the real world, but his joy is unshakable. He's got the loot. Then, a voice stops him dead. It's Ijichi, but not the Jiru he knows. She's in baggy sweatpants, rocking glasses, and has her hair tied up in a messy bun. The top beauty is currently the plain girl next door helping her mom with the groceries. Her panicked, wait, don't say anything, tells him exactly how much this Gap Mo look matters. She's flustered, begging him to keep her makeup-free look a secret. It's a moment of unexpected vulnerability, and Seo finds it dangerously cute. But the unreserved physical contact hasn't changed. She seals the deal with a heavy-handed slap to his back that nearly knocks the lungs out of him. She knows she can count on her Otaku-kun. The peace is shattered when her little brother appears, pointing a finger and shouting, "Kotoko's boyfriend." The accusation hits like a physical blow. Ijichi turns into a blur of motion, dragging her brother away and shouting apologies over her shoulder. Seo just stands there, blushing furiously, and realizes he doesn't actually mind the misunderstanding at all. Monday at school, and Seo mentions finding the pillow cover to Amane. Amane's eyes light up, but the temperature in the room drops as Ijichi overhears them. She realizes they've been following each other on Instagram, trading real-time commentary behind her back. The social bridge is starting to feel like a third wheel. Ijichi isn't taking it lying down. "I want in too," she whines, her phone out and ready, but the real sting comes when she sees Amane's message history. Amane, who ignores Ijichi's texts for days, apparently replies to Seo instantly. It's a hierarchy shift that leaves Ijichi sniffing in mock betrayal and Amane looking very, very guilty. They agree to all message together, and Seo leaves school feeling like his social life has finally hit terminal velocity. He gets home, fresh from the bath, and hears the familiar ping of a notification. It's already started. The connection that began in his bedroom has evolved into something he can't control anymore. He looks at his screen and freezes. It's not one message, it's two. Amane wants to go to animate. Ijichi wants to see a movie. Both invitations are for the same weekend. Seo stares at the screen, realized he has got different invites from both of them, and suddenly his solitary weekend plans have turned into a romantic battleground. Takuya is practically vibrating in his seat, phone clutched in a white-knuckled grip. He's staring at two different messages, two different girls, and exactly one weekend. The math just doesn't work. His brain is firing off every worst-case scenario, from a hidden camera prank to an elaborate social execution. He stares at the screen, sweating through his shirt as the reality sinks in. Could these possibly be invitations for a date? The weekend arrives with a roar, and Takuya's solution is a gamble that shouldn't work, bringing both of them together. Amane and Ijichi are standing at the station like they stepped off a magazine cover, their casual clothes radiating a top-tier energy that makes Takuya feel like a background character in his own life. Ijichi doesn't miss a beat, grinning at his obvious discomfort. "You do know how to throw yourself in the laps of luxury, huh, Otaku-kun?" They are way too cute for a simple stroll through Ikebukuro. Takuya is literally forgetting how to breathe, walking beside two goddesses while the rest of the world stares. Behind his back, the atmosphere is electric with a different kind of energy. The girls are whispering, trading jabs about who invited who first, and who's actually going to get his attention. Amane tries to play it cool, claiming she just had a specific place in mind, but the competitive edge in her voice says otherwise. Ijichi breaks the tension with a plan that sounds like a peace treaty, an alternating date. 1 hour with a man, then 1 hour with her. It sounds logical until she drops the hammer with a wink. And by too far, I'm including hotels. Takuya's heart does a vertical leap into his throat while a man nearly short-circuits. They both scream, "We won't," in perfect, horrified unison. Amane's hour begins, and the pressure is immediate. Takuya can feel the heat of everyone's eyes. Her legs seem to go on forever in those jeans, making her look like she belongs on a different plane of existence. The fantasy is cut short when a pair of local predatory Jeruos move in. They ignore Takuya entirely, treating him like a speed bump as they try to pick her up. Takuya flinches, his social anxiety flaring as he prepares for the worst. The air temperature drops 40 degrees in a second. Amane turns, her eyes narrowing into a glare so lethal it could stop a heart. This isn't the hobbyist who likes Kiramon. This is the Ice Queen, a fortress of pure disdain. She doesn't raise her voice, but the words are sharp enough to draw blood. "We'll do perfectly fine without you two, thank you." The guys don't just leave, they vanish. Takuya is left shaking, only for Amane to instantly soften, worrying that her scary side just ruined the mood. Amane admits she knows how her face can terrify people, her gaze dropping to the pavement. But Takuya isn't scared anymore. He looks at her, really looks at her, and tells her the truth. That gap between her cool exterior and her real self is what makes her amazing. It's a moment of raw sincerity that catches her completely off guard. She's the school's untouchable idol, but right now, she's just a girl who feels like he just saved her. The heavy atmosphere evaporates the moment they hit the hobby shop. Amane is practically glowing, clutching her loot like it's made of solid gold. I scored 3 copies of the first edition. She beams, her Ice Queen persona completely melted by pure nerd joy. Takuya watches her, thinking they must look like the most unlikely couple in the city, the popular beauty and her plain otaku tag-along. They settle into a fancy cafe to wait for Ijichi, and the quiet starts to feel a bit too intimate. Takuya tries to fill the silence by asking about the little sister Amane is always buying gifts for. He's curious about the kid who shares his niche obsession. Amane takes a long sip of her drink, the steam from the cup hiding her expression for a moment before she decides to drop the act. Amane leans her chin on her hand, looking out the window with a look of mock tragedy. "I'm actually an only child." Takuya's brain practically reboots. All that talk about her sister was a shield, a convenient excuse to be an otaku without anyone judging. The little sister is just her mom's friend's kid who visits sometimes. Takuya is halfway between relieved and horrified that he fell for the imaginary sibling routine. Takuya, being Takuya, gets way too excited about the idea of meeting a real-life member of the Kiramon target audience. He asks to meet the girl, but the phrasing comes out sounding like a police report in the making. He turns bright red, waving his hands in a frantic panic. "I'm sorry, it must have sounded like, and I'm not a lolicon either." Amane just watches him flounder, her expression unreadable behind her glass. The laughter dies down, and a heavy, weighted silence takes its place. Amane tucks a strand of hair behind her ear, her cheeks dusted with a visible blush. She's not looking at him, but her voice is steady. "Wanna come over?" Takuya's heart starts hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. She's inviting him to her house, alone, both parents out, the ultimate romantic crossroads. And then, just as the tension hits its breaking point, Ijichi slides back into the scene with a cheerful "wah." Ijichi's hour begins with a total shift in energy. No fancy cafes, just a sunny park bench and her effortless confidence. She decides they don't have time for a movie, so they're going to find their own fun. She's leaning back, her presence filling the space in a way that's completely different from Amane's quiet intensity. Takuya is still reeling from the house invite, but Ijichi is already moving on to the next play. Ijichi's idea of fun involves modern warfare. TikTok filters. She captures Takuya's face and turns it into a giant, gaping monster mouth, laughing so hard she's practically vibrating. Takuya is mortified, but she just leans in close, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Since you got to see my embarrassing side the last time, I'll make you go through a lot of embarrassing stuff today, Otaku-kun." The digital humiliation continues as she cycles through filters, turning him into a baby and then a middle-aged man with a mole, but the real boss fight begins when she pulls out a tripod. She's not just taking photos, she wants a dance routine. Takuya tries to retreat, but she's already pulling him up by the arm, her grin wide and predatory. "All right, in 3 seconds." Takuya's rhythm is non-existent, a stiff, panicked flailing that has Ijichi howling with laughter. He's certain this is a new shameful chapter in his life history. But when she shows him the post, his blood runs cold. She set it to private, but the hashtag at the bottom says it all: number couple dance. Ijichi just hums a little tune, looking incredibly pleased with her work while Takuya stares at the screen in a daze. They wander toward the gachapon machines, and Takuya is back in his element, geeking out over high-quality Kiramon figures for only 200 yen. He's laughing, totally relaxed for the first time all day. But Ijichi is watching him with an expression that isn't playful anymore. She crouches down beside him, her voice dropping to a serious, quiet tone. "Other than Kiramon, anything else you love?" The air in the arcade suddenly feels heavy. Ijichi is looking directly at him, her eyes searching his for an answer he's not ready to give. "A girl you like, for example." Takuya's heart gives a violent thud. Is she asking if he likes Amane? Or is she asking about herself? He starts to stammer, his mind racing to understand why the school's reigning social elite is looking at him like he's the only person in the room. Before he can answer, she reaches out and rubs his head, her touch surprisingly warm and lingering. "But you could say that. For you? Maybe I'm sorta interested?" The words are a grenade. She doesn't wait for the explosion, standing up and waving to Amane as she returns. Takuya is left frozen, the middle of her sentence ringing in his ears. Is she serious, or is this just another high-level Gyaru tease? The hour is up and the trio is back together, but the atmosphere has fundamentally changed. Amane and Ijichi lock eyes, a silent, heavy challenge passing between them. They aren't just friends anymore, they're rivals. Amane asks the final, biting question. "How serious are you?" Takuya is 5 feet away, blissfully unaware, pumping more coins into a gachapon machine. He thinks the day was a success, completely missing the fact that he just became the center of a two-way romantic war. Back at home, the secret to Amane's stunning look is revealed. It took a full consultation with her mom, and a lot of nerves to get that wavy curl just right. She put in the work for a date that was never supposed to be a date at all. If you ask an otaku a simple question, be prepared for a 10-minute lecture. Amane and Takuya are currently operating on a hive mind frequency, dissecting the lore of a mechanical Kiramon named Single Boy Jack like it's a matter of national security. They aren't just fans, they're walking encyclopedias of useless knowledge. Ijichi can only watch from the sidelines, completely outmatched by their knack for remembering everything except their actual homework. The high of trivia dies the second the midterms are mentioned. Takuya's confidence evaporates into a cold sweat as he realizes his brain is full of anime stats and zero math formulas. Amane tries to maintain her Ice Queen composure, claiming she's fine since she's not an otaku, but her trembling posture says otherwise. The hierarchy is shifting. The social elite are about to get bodied by a calculus sheet. April evaluation results are in, and it's a massacre. Takuya is barely clinging to a 3-digit total, but Amane is a different kind of disaster. She looks like she's just witnessed a funeral. When Ijichi tries to offer a cheerful, "You gotta do your best on the next one," Amane finally snaps. Her voice is a jagged edge of pride and pain. "I don't appreciate your pity." Then comes the curveball. Ijichi offhandedly mentions a composite score of 423. She didn't just pass, she cleared the field while Takuya and Amane were struggling for air. Takuya stares at her like he's seeing a new species. He assumed the Gyaru lifestyle was all karaoke and lightheaded fun, but Ijichi is a silent academic predator. Turns out, Gyarus come in all shapes, sizes, and IQ levels. In the middle of the lecture, everyone is in their own world. Takuya is busy perfecting a Rocketman doodle, far more focused on ink than sign formulas. Amane sits with perfect posture, a statue of regal silence, while Ijichi is practically vibration testing her pens. It's the calm before the quiz storm, and no one is actually prepared for the impact. School lets out, and the survival instinct kicks in, specifically the need to scream into a microphone. They head to karaoke, where the Ice Queen and the Gyaru find themselves at an impasse over the playlist. When Amane suggests a deep-cut idol track, Ijichi is already checking TikTok trends. Takuya is stuck in the middle, realizing that even leisure time is just another battlefield for these two. Behind closed doors, the masks fully drop. Takuya meticulously organizes his Kiramon shelf, a ritual of peace before the academic storm. Meanwhile, the regal Amane is on her bed, legs in the air, losing her mind over a god-tier light novel and kicking her feet in pure otaku delight. Across town, Ijichi is actually hitting the books, proving that the secret brain is her most dangerous weapon. The papers come back and it's a bloodbath. Takuya stares at a 22, with the hollow eyes of a man who's accepted his fate. Amane? She's a 16. She's currently burying her face in her hands, trying to phase out of existence. Ijichi looms over them with a 44, her voice dripping with genuine confusion. "Are you guys even paying attention during class?" Desperation makes for strange alliances. Takuya actually asks Ijichi for help with a problem, and the transformation is instant. The playful Gyaru vanishes, replaced by a tutor with a transparently flawless approach. She doesn't just know the answers, she can explain them in her sleep. Takuya is physically recoiling from the shock. This is the same girl who drags him to gachapon machines. Then, it happens. A soft kerchak as Ijichi slides on a pair of glasses to look at the notes. The world stops. She's not just smart, she's devastatingly cute. Takuya's heart does a backflip into his throat. He's staring at her like she's a legendary pull from a secret banner. She catches him looking and blushes, her voice small and insecure. I don't think I look that bad, right? Takuya is short-circuiting. He's supposed to be learning past perfect tense, but all he can see is the way those frames sit on her face. The silence stretches too long, and Ijichi's confidence craters. She thinks she looks like a nerd, slumping over in a wave of depression. She's calling herself a fake gyaru, completely unaware that Takuya is currently battling for his very soul just 5 inches away. He can't take it anymore. The words explode out of him before he can check them. The glasses look amazingly cute on you. Ijichi freezes. The room goes radioactive with embarrassment. She tries to play it off, snapping at him to stop picking her up, but the damage is done. She's hiding behind her hair, a tiny thank you very much escaping her as the study session turns into a high-stakes standoff. 5 days until the midterms, and Takuya is officially boned. He's staring at his books like they're an ancient curse. But as the academic dread grows, so does his urge to find refuge in Kiramon. He starts seeing the study guide as a quest from the underworld. If Sachiko can do her best on her journey, then Takuya can at least survive 10 pages of modern Japanese. He's actually doing it. He's in the library, pen in hand, ready to fight for his grades. But the silence of the stacks is broken by a familiar, chirpy voice. Oh my, if it isn't Otaku-kun, Ijichi and Amane have arrived. The lone wolf study session just became a crowded 3-way struggle for territory and focus. Takuya tries to act cool, announcing, I'm on a journey to find my focus. Ijichi looks at him, then at Amane, and starts laughing. Apparently Amane said the exact same cringeworthy line 5 minutes ago. It's a direct quote from the newest Kiramon anime. They are caught in a sympathetic connection so deep it's bordering on telepathic. Ijichi just shakes her head. You guys really are on the exact same wavelength. This is a tactical nightmare. Takuya is sandwiched between the school's top beauty and a genius gyaru in glasses. Every time Amane leans in to check a formula, or Ijichi's arm brushes against his brain drops another 10% in processing power. He finally hits his limit, slamming his hands down on the desk. I can't concentrate at all with you two here. 5 p.m. strikes, and the teacher-tutor has to go. Ijichi has dinner duty, but she isn't leaving without marking her territory. She points a finger at them, her eyes narrowing in a playful but sharp warning. You can't just go off talking about Kiramon together. She knows exactly what happens when 2 nerds are left alone with their shared obsession. Exactly 10 minutes. That's how long the studying lasted. Now the library table is a war zone for a drawing Kiramon from memory battle. Takuya is a pro, but Amane's competitive streak is terrifying. The library closing bell rings, and Amane is practically begging for one more round. She hates losing more than she loves breathing. They walk home under the setting sun, the tension of the battle still hanging in the air. Amane is fuming, analyzing her loss with the intensity of a grandmaster. You only won by 1 question though. Takuya can only laugh. Her Ice Queen mask is completely gone, replaced by a girl who is just really bad at taking an L. They reach the crosswalk, both reaching for the button at the exact same second. Their fingers brush just a fraction of an inch, and the world hits a dead stop. Amane pulls back like she's been burned, her face turning a shade of red that defies physics. Takuya is stammering, apologizing for a crime he didn't commit, while Amane tries to regain her dignity with a shaky, "It's fine." The walk continues in a silence that's heavy enough to crush a building. Takuya's heart is doing a drum solo against his ribs. Ba-thump, ba-thump, ba-dump. They reach the corner where their paths diverge, and the goodbye feels like it's being dragged through molasses. He tries to wave, tries to say something normal, but his brain is still stuck at that crosswalk button. She stops. She doesn't turn around at first, her hand clutching her bag so tight her knuckles are white. Then she looks back, her eyes soft, her cheeks still burning with that lingering heat. The question is a whisper that feels like a gunshot. You want to stop by? Takuya's world just tilted off its axis. He's standing in front of her house and the invitation of a lifetime is hanging in the air.